Welcome to the Moffitt Method podcast, where longtime strength and conditioning coach Tommy Moffitt explores everything from the art of coaching, improving performance, sports nutrition, and mental training. Now, welcome your host, Coach Tommy Moffitt.
Welcome to the Moffitt Method podcast, and I am your host, Tommy Moffitt. If you are listening for the first time, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Our incredible guest today is Coach John Hersel. Coach Hersel is the head strength coach at Saraland High School in Saraland, Alabama. Coach Hersel is a graduate of Jamestown College in North Dakota and earned his master's degree from LSU. Coach Hersel joined the Saraland High School staff in August of 2017, and prior to that, he was the head strength coach for all sports at York High School in York, South Carolina. Prior to York, Coach lived and worked in the Mobile, Baldwin County area for almost 10 years and served as the associate head strength and conditioning coach at the University of South Alabama, the head strength coach at Baldwin County High School, and also assisted the sports programs of McGill-Tulane and Spanish Fort High Schools. Before his time in South Alabama, Coach Hersel was fortunate to have been a part of the strength and conditioning staffs at IGM Sports Academy, Ole Miss, LSU, and the University of Miami. During his free time, Coach Hersel enjoys spending time with his wife and daughter, Ashley and Emma, going to the beach and competing in CrossFit and obstacle course races. Welcome to the podcast. How are we doing?
Doing great. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. So I got a question, man. Where are you originally from? Are you from North Dakota or where?
I'm actually originally from a small town called Peerless, Montana. I grew up about 13 miles from the Canadian border and about 80 from North Dakota. So it's cold. It's cold up there. So I moved down south.
Yeah. So since you went to Miami as an intern, you've been in the South ever since, huh?
Yes. From the spring of 2000.
Yeah.
From the spring of 2000. I remember leaving. I was with a buddy of mine. We went up to Winnipeg, Manitoba for New Year's Eve. And we were standing outside trying to catch a taxi cab, and it was about 30 below. And I go down to Miami, and it was 40 above, and they were having a cold spell, and everybody was running around and, jackets on. And they saw me come down there, T-shirt and pair of shorts, and they thought I was nuts.
That is awesome. And now, living in Mobile, being close to the beach, that southern lifestyle is a lot different than northern Montana.
Oh, yes.
You can go to the beach. You're right there, Saraland. So I looked it up. It's north of Mobile, right?
Yes.
And
Saraland's north of Mobile, and I actually live on the eastern shore. So I drive about half hour, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And I live literally from my door to the beach. I can be down at the beach in about 35 minutes.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, man. No. Not bad at all. Living that southern life, man. And then Mobile is the home of Mardi Gras. People don't know that, but it's the home of Mardi Gras. So do y'all go to the parades during Carnival or what?
We'll go to some.
Yeah,
we'll go to some. We don't go to many of them because it gets crazy down there and packed traffic, and I'm just like, nah.
That's the way I am. Yeah, so Jill loves Mardi Gras, because my wife, Jill, she's from New Orleans, and she loves Mardi Gras. And I think everybody from New Orleans does, but me and the boys, we're not too big of fans of it. And then, Baton Rouge has a little bit, but we don't do a whole lot of Mardi Gras here either.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get to the questions, okay? Let's get this thing rolling. So, everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different reason for getting into the field of strength and conditioning. And, I just want you to touch on what was it about strength and conditioning that pulled you in, and when and how did it all start?
Yeah. So I was originally going to college, and I was, doing athletic training, and I wanted to be involved in athletics. And one summer I did an internship at a physical therapy clinic. And because I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an athletic trainer, if I wanted to go occupational therapy, physical therapy. And it was in Fargo, North Dakota, and got a chance to do an internship there. And they helped North Dakota State with their speed camp or strength conditioning camp during the summertime. Yeah. And I remember meeting Jim Kramer, who's still there. Mm-hmm. I believe he's still there. And then they had like their guest speaker that came in was Rob Rogers, who was at Baylor. Mm-hmm. And he was actually the NSCA Strength Conditioning Coach of the Year. And I was like, hold on a second here. Strength conditioning. I was like, what's this all about? And I realized that it was a lot more fun to keep athletes healthy and out of the training room than it was to always be working on, people that are kind of broken down or, injured or whatever. And I just fell in love with it. And then, went from there. Then I applied down at the IMG Sport Academies, did an internship down there, and then went to Miami and just Miami to LSU and, just started going from there. So that's really kind of how it all took off.
All right. So, it's been a long time. So, it's been, 24, no, not quite 24, at least 20 years. So yes. How did you get to LSU? I'm embarrassed to say it, but it's been so long. I don't remember. What was the connection? Did you apply for a position or what?
Well, I had accepted the internship at the University of Miami when you were still there. When you were the head strength conditioning coach. And then you left, took the position at LSU. And I remember getting a phone call after I'd already got down to Miami from Rob Phillips. And Rob was like, hey, big baby, he's still interested in doing an internship down here. He's like, Moffitt left. And I was like, well, I'm already moved into my apartment. So yeah, I'm here. So he came down, and then I remember you came over because you were in the process of, moving, Jill. And at the time, I think you guys only had Clay.
Yeah, no, Aaron was a baby. Aaron was actually born on campus there at Doctor's Hospital.
Okay. So you had Jill and the two boys, and you were in Baton Rouge trying to get everything, squared away and get everything going from there. And you came back, and I remember meeting you a couple of times, and, and I remember you had, I think, 4 GA positions that you had at LSU. And, you kind of said, hey, if you're interested in one, we're looking for guys that know how to coach and that are interested in being in it. And, let me know. Here's my number. You want to apply for it. And so I applied for it, and I got in. It was, who was there? It was the four interns were 4 GAs were Joe Ruby.
Yeah.
Derek LeBlanc.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Derek
then
LeBlanc was already there then. Good.
And then
what about Will Jones? Had Will Jones started yet?
He came in, I think, after school started.
Yeah.
I think because Jason Poeth, he came in. I was the last person to come in.
Yeah. Wow. But you're an OG, man.
Yeah, that was back when we were stuck in that little back office underneath the stadium in that weight room. In that little storage room where we had all the GAs stuffed in there.
Wow. In my office was, I shared an office with a couple of assistant coaches. I don't think at the time I had moved into the main office. That's amazing, man. You're an OG.
Yeah. Cause Carl Dunbar.
Yeah. Carl
was there as an assistant.
Yeah. Was Scott Gattikin there yet?
Yep. Gattikin was there. Scotty G.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was
so I'd already moved into the other office then.
Yes. At that point in time, you had.
Yeah. Wow, man, that was a long time ago. A lot has happened since then. Wow.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So you were in the original weight room, and so what we did. So the office that Carl was in was the old GA office, and the room that you guys were in, that was our storage room. And so when Scotty G and let me think. So Scotty G, was Jim Now there yet?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Jim came in like a week before I did, right around the same time that I did.
Okay. So Jim and Scotty G were in the old assistant office. Carl Dunbar was in the old GA office, and then y'all were in the storage room. That is super cool.
Yep.
That was super cool. So when you started out, so you had a similar start as all of the guys that have come through this program. You know, you start at the bottom and you work your way up. So during your career, you know, looking back on it, who were some of your early role models that kind of shaped you to become the coach that you are today?
I mean, I'd have to say, you, Rob Phillips, Coach Hatch, because I remember, going up there, and then, from my time at, Ole Miss, Noel Durfee, Ruben Mendoza, and it's just one of those things where just, meeting people and just having a chance to talk to them and, I could probably sit here and name 10 or 15 people, but, for as far as, the people that really, really had an impact on me, I would have to say those guys. Obviously some of the guys from, IMG that I still stay in contact with from when I was down there. I mean, I was really fortunate to be around a lot of great strength conditioning coaches. I mean, Lauren Seagrave, when I went over to, Velocity when I was over there, I mean, it's, had a chance to work with some great people.
Yeah. I think for anyone that coached from the 80s to the early 2000s, Coach Seagraves was one of the guys, one of the most influential guys in running. And I would consider him probably, when it comes to running, probably one of the most influential people that I've ever met. In fact, so I was interviewing a guy, I did a podcast with a guy not long ago who I actually met him at a Lauren Seagraves conference, and then ended up hiring him to be an intern at the University of Tennessee, Coach Jason Elkins. So, Coach Seagraves is he's still coaching, correct? He's still coaching at IMG?
I don't think he's doing anything at IMG anymore here, or he might, 'cause I know he was kind of like a consultant for him. Yeah. 'Cause I know he does a lot of stuff overseas, with
he does. Yeah.
With the professional track circuit, and does, has a bunch of athletes that he works with there. So, I mean, you want to talk about the most interesting man in the world?
Yeah.
If you're ever doing trivia, get Lauren Seagrave on your team. That is a must.
Super, super intelligent man. And it's funny because you were here, you mentioned Coach Hatch. So, when our GAs, they would always come, to get their master's degree, but they had to go to Coach Hatch to get their Hatch Ph.D., he called it.
Yep.
So you were here getting your master's and getting your Hatch Ph.D. at the same time. That says a lot.
Yep.
A lot of guys did that. All right. So was there a defining moment in your career that you remember that may have shaped you to be the coach that you are today? Was there something, was it something that happened at North Dakota while you were there when you first heard Coach Kramer speak, or, what was it? Was there an aha moment that shaped you?
I mean, I remember being down at University of Miami, and, people I was asking, what was it like down there? What was it like? Like, those guys are just a bunch of thugs. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Those dudes were some of the most stand-up guys. And at that point in time, I mean, that was probably the biggest thing I saw. I mean, I fell in love with it because Rob needed help. Because at the time, Swayze hadn't gotten hired yet. He was still over at Baylor doing working with track and doing sprinters. So Rob
he was actually coaching football.
Or that's right, coaching football, because he's doing DBs.
Yeah. Right.
He was coaching DBs at the time. And Rob needed help. And he just said, hey, go. Here are the guys. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, who are these guys? They're like, oh, I remember walking in the weight room one day and walked past this guy, and, he's sitting on the recumbent bike and had his hair slicked back, and kind of looked at him, and, he kind of gave me this glare, and I walked past him and walked into the office. I'm like, hey, man, who's old guy on the bike? Looks like, a mean Pat Riley. He goes, he's hanging, he goes, big baby, that's Dan Morgan.
Yeah.
He's the baddest sucker in the history of the University of Miami. I was like, that dude? He goes, you put him in football pads, you ain't getting off the field alive. So, I mean, I remember having, like, Rob gave me as an intern, not knowing me or anything. He just turned me loose. I mean, it was like, Dan Morgan, Chris Campbell. I got a chance. I mean, those are the guys that he gave me and said, I trust you to do your job. Do it with these guys. Santana Moss, Reggie Wayne.
Yeah,
I remember I had
job training.
Yeah. And I remember at the time, Ed Reed was there. Well, Ed, because of his classes, he couldn't come in and work out with the rest of the team. So he came in and worked out with the interns, or worked out with all the walk-ons, and had all the interns there. And Ed was like, hey, man, I need somebody that I can train with. So Rob looked at me and goes, you want to train Ed and train with him? And I was like, are you sure? He goes, yeah. So I got to train with Ed Reed and take him through all of his lifts for a whole semester.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is awesome. And that dude, I mean, you want to talk about an absolute just physical freak.
Yeah.
And just stand-up dude, that guy was it. But, I mean, that was probably being down there and being exposed to everything that kind of got it. And then, obviously, that next fall when I went down to LSU, being in Tiger Stadium, I remember we beat Tennessee in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably, that was an enlightening moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it was just, probably when I was at Miami, just being able to have the ability to just go coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Good on the job training. And, you touched on something that I try to get across to people and players when I was still coaching here at LSU, that, a lot of people thought that the University of Miami football team was filled with a bunch of thugs. And, Edgerrin James kind of talked about that in his NFL Hall of Fame speech, his acceptance speech. But, they were some tough looking, rough cats that came from some horrible backgrounds, but they were still to this day, some of the finest, hardest working people that I've ever been around in my life, man. They truly understood what it was like to be on a team. They were a very cohesive group, and, they had their own system of checks and balances and their own value system that they adhered to. And those guys were bought in, man. They were dialed in. And it was totally different than what I think people's idea of what it was like. I mean, it was a unbelievable opportunity for me too. I mean, the time that I spent there was just like the time that you spent there. It was an incredible time that I had. And it was short-lived. I was only there 2 years, but it was probably 2 of the finest years that I ever had, in coaching.
Yep. Because, I mean, you didn't have to worry about guys not coming.
Right.
Because the players handled all that.
Yeah.
It's where it was like everybody was there. They were there when they were supposed to be there. If you showed up late, if you tried to, skip a lift, if you tried to, skip a workout or anything like that, the players held themselves accountable to where the coaches were just coming in and coaching. And those guys were absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, I remember Reggie Wayne had what was it? I want to say it was like his grandfather passed away or somebody in his family passed away, and he had to fly back to Texas. Well, at the time we were training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Well, Reggie came in, trained Monday, Tuesday, did Friday's lift, Wednesday, trained Thursday in the morning, got on a plane like early Thursday afternoon, flew back to Texas, flew back Sunday night, and was in the weight room Monday morning.
Yeah.
As if nothing did.
Yeah,
and it was just, that's what you did.
Yeah.
And that's what everybody did. It was just the atmosphere and everything down there was absolutely amazing. And then, I mean, you talk about some of the coaches that were down there at the time. It was like, Butch Davis, Greg Schiano, Chuck Pagano. I mean,
how about
Pagano
that Super Bowl champ?
Yeah.
Mario Cristobal.
Yep. Mario was a GA. You had Rob Chazinski.
Yeah. Rod Chazinski, NFL head coach.
Yep. You had Art Kehoe.
Yeah.
As an offensive line coach down there.
Yeah.
Curtis Johnson. Yes. I mean, it was just those guys.
Curtis Johnson. Yeah.
So, I mean, you had some absolutely amazing, coaches down there too. So, I mean, that was a lot of fun. And that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had.
Did you work with any other sports while you were there?
Worked with baseball, helped some with track and field, and I also worked with the rowers.
Yeah. Crew.
That crew
Coach
team.
Oakey.
Oh yeah, Coach Oakey. He loved those. He loved those rowers.
Yeah. Yeah. The crew team. Yeah. So when I was there, and that was the good thing about coaching at Miami. You got to work with the other sports as well. I did women's track and field. I did crew. I did swim and dive for a while. And I enjoyed that. Coach Amy Dean, the women's track coach, was phenomenal. So it was a great time, man. Great place.
Yep.
Well, you've coached a long time and you've had a lot of experience at every level in sports. Are there some things that you feel every athlete should do in strength and conditioning, regardless of, their training age and their experience levels?
Yes. I mean, it's one of the things that I started doing more and more of with my training as well as my athletes is I think it's important for athletes to sprint, jump, and throw every single day. Do some sort of sprint with them. It doesn't really matter what it is. It can be multi-directional. It can be linear, whatever you want to do, some type of jump. Same thing. You can go vertical, horizontal, do whatever. And then, and some type of throw, just because, you sprint, you jump, you throw, and just being able to generate, just power production. That comes along with it. And then, I think that really helps lay a base for what you do in the weight room, be it, regardless of what your strength conditioning program is,
right.
That helps keep that base. And with your athletes, it's a great thing to do because, it helps, like I do it all the time for our athletes because it preps them for what they're going to do in the weight room.
Exactly. So you got a nice collection of med balls then, huh?
Oh, yes. I have a nice collection of medicine balls and, they'll blow up every now and then. I had a kid bring one in that broke the other day and he goes, "What do I do with this?" I'm like, "Throw it in the garbage." He's like, "Why?" I was like, "Because can't fix it." I was like, "Can't fix it. We'll just get another one." So I think I finally got some good ones that I think are they're pretty top of the line. So
yeah, if you throw them enough, man, they're going to bust, and you can put as much duct tape or you can tape them up as much as you want, man. But once they crack open, they're done.
Yes.
So that's neat. So now let me ask you, the way you program that, I'm sure you're not, the volume isn't the same every day. Although the intensity is high, how do you work that in? If you're training 3 or 4 days a week, do you have one day where you're going to focus on the jumping and then, the level of throws and sprints are lower? How do you break that up throughout the week? I'm fired up. I want to hear it.
For our athletes, we primarily train, 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days, we'll either do, some speed training, some movement training, or in the state of Alabama, depending on when your sport starts, they can start doing stuff with their sport coach for
that's
2 hours
here too. Yeah.
So that's one of those things where I try to do. So I'm very fortunate with our facilities right now to where we've got, it's very similar to like what you had when you were at when you were at LSU, to where you had the weight room, and then it was connected to the to your turf facility.
Yeah.
Well, we have the same thing. I've got a 5,000 square foot weight room, and then I've got 3 sets of double doors and a garage door to where I can go out to, a covered turf area that's 37 yards long and regulation width.
Oh, wow.
So every day we'll go down there and, I'll take all of our kids through our warm up, and then, they go inside and see here Monday, they'll usually do some, usually do 3 to 4 sets of our bomb throws, throwing them up. Then Wednesday we'll go, an overhead backward throw with them. Then on Friday, we'll usually do like between the legs or like kind of a wheelbarrow throw forward, just to work on exposing them to those different positions and be able to go from there. And, after we throw is usually when I'll take them through and, and just have them start, doing some sprints out of different positions. And I keep the sprints very minimal, anywhere from say 4 to maybe 8. Yeah. And then, I keep it about right at 10 yards. If we go a little bit further, I'll start, adjusting the volume for that. But one of the things I find with high school kids is that they're, people talk about, periodizing for high school kids. Well, if you look at a high school, like school calendar, they have enough rest in there all the time that, you don't really have to, I don't do a high volume of a lot of stuff. I do kind of like a low to moderate volume of everything every single day, because I just want to give them that dose, the microdosing or whatever you want to call it. Right. That's what I try to give them every day. And that way they're exposed to it, where they're constantly sprinting, constantly jumping, constantly throwing. We'll do, because of the way our facility is set up, is that they can do say, like yesterday with our football players, I had them doing, hex bar jumps. Then they went out and they did some medicine ball contrast throws, to where they grabbed, if their clean was 225 or higher, they do their first throw with a 12-pound medicine ball, and then they do their second throw with a 10-pound medicine ball. And
contrast and stuff.
Yeah, just go some contrast. And I've done it before, and I started running into issues to where guys started, hitting the ceiling. And with some of our guys, even with the 10-pound medicine balls, I'm like, okay, you've got to do it over here. And they're like, why? I was like, because you hit that light, you hit that speaker, or you hit that sprinkler system. I was like, I'm fired. I'm fired. Because I was doing it with those guys to where if their clean was, 225 or more, and I just threw that out there because that's a good differentiator with our varsity and JV guys and their strength levels, is that I was doing it with like a 12-pound ball and then going to an 8-pound ball. And when I was doing that, I had guys bouncing them off the roof. And I was like, no. Anytime that the head football coach starts getting that little finger twitch and everything like that, and he's also the AD, he's one of the folks that can fire me. Yeah. I try to make sure he doesn't get very twitchy very often. But that's some of the stuff that I'll do with them.
Yeah, that's cool. So if my math is correct, you've been coaching now for, 20 something, over 20 years. Is there any advice that you would give young coaches, or are there some survival tactics that you've developed for the field of strength and conditioning?
The first thing I would say is, whether you want to or not, get some type of education certificate. Because, I want to say, you were the one that originally told me this, is that there's 2 types of coaches, those that have been fired and those that are going to be fired. And if you're not one, you're the other, because very few people get to, retire at the same place that they got hired at say age 20 as a strength conditioning coach. It just doesn't happen. The fact that you were at LSU for 22 22 years. I mean, that's
incredibly blessed.
Yeah,
You don't have to tell me, man. I'm too blessed to be stressed.
But I mean, other than that, I mean, the only other guy that I can think of off the top of my head is Joey Batson at Clemson.
Yeah, there's a few guys out there, but they're older guys, when it wasn't nearly like it is today, where, there used to be like kind of a safety net where the strength coach, the athletic trainer, the equipment manager, and the video guy were pretty safe if people started getting fired. But it's not like that anymore. And I understand why. The stakes are much higher. The expectations are much higher today than what they used to be. But
yep. But I would say, get some type of education certificate because, if something happens, I mean, I was never planning on being a high school strength conditioning coach. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, certain things within my life happened. My daughter was born and I was like, okay, I got to kind of change course for what I'm doing. And I ended up getting, an education certificate and I'm certified to teach. And, in a lot of states that certificate, they have certificate reciprocity. So I can go pretty much anywhere in the U.S. and be able to apply for or get a job. So I'd say that. And then, it's the old Bruce Lee saying, be like water, be able to move and adapt and, be willing to do different things other than, just strength conditioning. Because when I came to Saraland, they said, okay, you're going to do regular PE with general ed PE. And that drove me nuts. And you're also going to be, coaching our freshman football. And I said, okay. And at one point in time, they said they were going to be the JV girls soccer coach. And I was able to get out of that.
Anything about soccer? Did you know anything about soccer?
I know you got a goalie and you got a round ball and a goal. You try to kick it in the net. That was about it for the most part. But I mean, I had to be willing to learn and adapt. And then, after that first year, I took over as the head freshman football coach.
Yeah.
Which
that's cool.
Was challenging. So, but I mean, it was, willing to be able to, accept different roles and do different things.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing that a lot of people I think have problems with, and it prevents them from, either moving up or going on. It just doesn't open up as many doors.
Right. Yeah. I've had guys that come through our program at LSU that were good coaches that said, unless I can be a collegiate football strength and conditioning coach, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to coach other sports. And, you pigeonhole yourself when you do that. And it makes it tough, especially when you're just starting out, and like I said, when I was at Miami, I did crew, swimming and diving, and women's track and field, and would have done we had a couple of men, because Miami didn't have men's track and field wasn't a varsity sport unless a football player was competing in track and field. But Amy, Coach Dean, was your coach pretty much. So yeah, you got to do a lot of different stuff, man. When I was a high school coach, I was the offensive. I was one of two offensive line coaches, the head strength coach, head wrestling coach, assistant track coach. And I'm sure you would say the same thing. All of that coaching helped me to become a better coach. It's kind of like if you're going to be a painter, you got to paint. If you're going to be a carpenter, you got to build houses, and the more you coach, the better you get.
I think that, the exposure to those other sports helps me as a strength conditioning coach, because it's like, okay, I understand what that coach may want, or I have a base level of knowledge, and it helps me understand what the kids need. And it helps me be able to communicate with that coach better to where we can speak the same language, or at least close to it.
Yeah.
I think that's a big help too.
Yep. What are some of the struggles or battles that you have, if any, with the athletes that you have there? How is it today?
Getting kids to eat real food.
Yeah.
Getting kids to eat breakfast. Getting kids, what'd you eat today? Oh, Coach, I didn't eat. Well, why didn't you eat? Well, you didn't get breakfast here, didn't get breakfast at home. No, I didn't like what my mom made or whatever. And it's like, I didn't like what they had at school for breakfast or for lunch. And, I see it all the time. Where kids are like,
that
what'd you
wasn't my
eat
problem.
today? I had a Pop-Tart. A Pop-Tart. Are you kidding me? And that's probably the biggest thing is, it's just, getting kids to put, food into their body. And then, and then on the flip side of it, you have people that are like, okay, well, what supplements, should I take? What protein supplements? So it's like, hold on a second here. What are you eating? Are you eating, are you eating some good lean meat? Chicken, steak, hamburger, whatever. Oh, I'm a picky eater. Well, if you're a picky eater and you can't put on weight, I can't help you. Yeah. Because I wasn't a picky eater and I never had a problem putting on weight.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. Can't out-train a bad diet.
Oh, no.
So they serve breakfast at Saraland. Kids can eat breakfast if they choose. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
That's the way it is. So, Brady, my youngest son, is a senior now. And so some mornings he'll get up and say, hey, I've got some extra work I have to do. I'm meeting some guys in the cafeteria for breakfast. So he won't eat. So then that gives me, I get a free breakfast. I eat what Jim cooked for Brady. But that's good that they serve breakfast. But the key is to get them to understand how critical it is that they have to eat. Yeah. And that's a problem in college too, man. That was, it always was and will always be a problem, I think, for athletes until they understand how important fueling for performance is. And to a large degree, a lot of the problematic kids that we had at LSU didn't understand that until they made it to the NFL. And they were like, oh, because they see all the other pros, a real pro, eating breakfast and eating lunch and then taking food out at night, to go plates or go to a restaurant to eat dinner. Finally, they understand the importance of nutrition. Yep. Well, all right. So, I keep hearing from different people in the profession about how high school kids have changed. Is it harder to coach them today compared to a few years ago? Or is it not? Are they the same? And if they are different, are you doing anything different on your end to help motivate those guys? What do you see from the youth of America?
I don't know if it's so much more kids have changed, but how much sports in general and the things around them have changed.
Society,
Yeah, society as a whole. Like technology. Yeah. When I was at LSU in 2000, I think I may have had a cell phone. Yeah. Now everybody has them. It's technology. It's all this stuff. But then, you look at the sports climate. Now you have like club sports, AAU, travel ball teams, to where you don't have a whole lot of kids. We're fortunate here to where we have a really high number of kids that, boys and girls, that will play multiple sports. But you still have so many people that right now it's like, okay, I'm going to play baseball year round. And then all of a sudden it's like, bam, their senior year, they have Tommy John surgery. And they're like, I don't know how this happened. And it's like, well, you played baseball 10 months out of the year, 12 months out of the year. You can't do that or whatever sport it is. So I think that, and then I think a big thing was, when I was growing up, I grew up on a cattle ranch and wheat farm. So, that was like, I was used to working. Yeah. And I had a coach tell me to do something. It was like, yes, sir. You never questioned it. And now I think one of the biggest problems is that you have a lot of, say, people my age and your age and everything, that is like, you do it because I said so when you were an athlete or coming up, to where now it's, people are, there's not that, you don't have that. You don't have people going out and working, doing manual labor. And it's like, if you tell a kid to do something, they want to know why. Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of ourselves as coaches. It's like, when a kid asks why, not to say because I said so, it's because this is how it's going to help you. They want to understand.
Yeah.
So I find myself explaining and probably over explaining stuff to my athletes as to how it's going to help them or why they should do it rather than anything else.
Yeah. But that's why you get buyback too, you know?
Yes.
Because, you know, I learned that, you know, Coach Johnny Parker used to say that people don't necessarily, and this was 20 years ago, Coach Johnny Parker said, they're not going to do it because you tell them to, you know? And sometimes you have to explain it. But that's coaching, man. Communication is coaching.
Yes.
In fact, my Ask Coach question today, one of the things at the end of the podcast I want to talk about, the Ask Coach question today is three characteristics. Coach Jacob asked me, what are the three characteristics of a successful strength coach? And to me, communication is number one. And that's what you're doing, is communicating to those young men and young women. All right. So let's get into some nuts and bolts. Okay. So at what age do you think it's appropriate for young men and young women to start, you know, strength and conditioning, and I'm going to put it in quotation marks, activity?
I mean, I think depending on the person and what they're doing, I mean, I think that you could start somebody at probably as early as age 8. It just depends on the program and, you know, are they doing things that are appropriate for them? Because I mean, I've had parents ask me that. They're like, well, my 10-year-old, you know, I heard that, you know, they shouldn't start weight training. I'm like, well, what you do that's appropriate for you as an adult and what a 10-year-old does that would be appropriate for them are two separate things. But I mean, you know, you start looking at, you know, there are different programs out there now to where they have like, you know, gymnastics programs and tumbling stuff, you know, and it's not necessarily all those, but I mean, it's a combination of different things where they're doing like little obstacle course, you know, things. I mean, no, I know that there are programs out there because I've seen them and I've heard about it. And I think that is absolutely amazing. I mean, you know, like when we were talking the other day, you know, when you asked me to come on, I mean, I remember, you know, being at LSU and you said, okay, you know, Jill dropped off Clay and you had to watch him and, you know, you had all those football guys coming in and you said, okay, John, here you go. You know, you got him. Okay. What do you want me to do? Just don't get him hurt. Because you're like, if he gets hurt, I get chewed out and then you get chewed out. I'm like, yes, sir. I was like, and then after I chew you out, she's going to chew you out. So what do we do? I mean, I remember stacking up, making, you know, taking the plow boxes, and he was jumping onto, over, and jumping off plow boxes and doing all sorts of stuff. And I remember pulling out the curl bar with no weight on it, and because he wanted to do some curls or whatever. And you know, and my daughter grew up in a weight room, and I remember her as a 5-6-year-old girl, you know, in her little dress and her, you know, flip flops, going up on like a 54-inch box and just jumping off.
Yeah.
And her landing mechanics were perfect because people are like, aren't you scared she's going to get hurt? And I was like, she's done it enough times. She knows how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, and stuff like that, to where it's like the freedom of play. But I think, I don't think enough kids are going outside and actually playing and developing those skills anymore because they're sitting inside in the house and, you know, playing Fortnite or, you know, their Xbox or, you know, PS5 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Or just on an iPad watching YouTube.
Yes.
You know, our youngest son used to watch YouTube, and he was like Kirby, and he would watch other kids on YouTube play Kirby, you know, some video game, you know, Nintendo DS or something. And I would say, oh no, let's go outside, man. Yeah, you don't. So now I'm in charge of our neighborhood watch program now, you know. So I get up every morning, I go for a walk, and then around lunch every day I ride my bike, and then in the afternoon I go for another walk. That's how bored I am right now. But so I say I'm the neighborhood watch leader. But I don't see a lot of kids playing in the street, man, you know, or playing in the yards. And I grew up in the country like you grew up in the country. And, man, we stayed outside every night until it got dark, you know, and our parents would call us in. we were jumping out of trees and jumping out of the barn onto the back of cows and, just whatever we could do to have fun. That was always fun. You would throw hay in a trough and the calves and I never jumped on the full grown cow's back, but the calves and stuff, this is when I was a little kid, the calves would come in and they would eat that hay out of the troughs and we'd jump on their back, and run. Yep. And get thrown off in the mud and get back up, climb up in the barn, jump out on their back again to see how long we could hang on.
Yep.
Let me ask you this, and because every high school is different, how are your workout times and, how's your class schedule go there at Saraland with the athletes?
Okay. So we're on a block schedule to where we have our kids for 85 minutes. We have 4 blocks and we get them for 85 minutes, 5 days a week.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes it really nice. So what we do is they've tried to match up a lot of our coaches to where their planning period is also when their team is going to be in the weight room. So
Saraland has made the administration at Saraland has made a commitment to athletics and strength and conditioning.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, we just opened up. So within the last year, we have turfed our baseball and softball fields. Since I've been here, it's like, okay, we built our tennis courts. They built the athletic performance center, 5,000 square foot weight rooms where our football locker rooms are, covered turf area. They've turfed our baseball and softball fields. They redid our middle school baseball and softball fields. Those are still, dirt and grass, but they've done a bunch of upgrades to them for as far as bathrooms, concession stands, doing different stuff. We just opened up. They just had the ribbon cutting on Tuesday night for our track and soccer complex to where we have that. And our superintendent is an absolutely amazing guy. He is truly an amazing person, but like his leadership and what he's done is he's like, you know what? We want to win in athletics. He goes, but we're going to win in academics also. To where, they went in and, with us being a city school system, we don't have as much of the bureaucracy and the red tape to cut through when we want to do things to where, they built an early ed center to where it's like, was it K3 or K4? So your child can be in a formalized education program from the time that they're 3 or 4 until the time that they're 18, and everything builds upon itself. Yeah. The technology in the classrooms, Chromebook carts, smart boards, everything like that. They've made athletics and academics a priority at this school. And so we're very fortunate with that. So they've done that with a lot of our sport coaches, but then, first block is usually we have our boys and girls soccer in there. And just because of the numbers and because of the kids' different class schedules, they can't get them all in there, but they try to get as many as they can. And then we'll also have some track, cross country, as well as our wrestling program. And, so that right now is one of our bigger classes.
That puts you close to 60 or 80.
Yeah, we're at about, I think it's about 65 kids in there right now. And then we have, there's myself, our female athletic director, who is also our head softball coach. She is in there. She's in there with us. Then our head baseball coach, who I work with him in the weight room all day, he's in there. And then our wrestling coach has his planning period first block. So he comes down and he's in there every day too. So there's awesome. At least 3 to 4 of us in there and doing stuff with athletes. That really helps. Second block is a smaller group. It's our baseball and our boys basketball. But, our head baseball coach, I work with him all day. So he's got his baseball guys and, so he's got, so we got them, and then boys basketball. the guys that aren't playing football are in there. And that allows us to do that. Third block is softball and girls basketball. So we have, them covered because we have the, head softball coach. She's got her girls then. And then fourth block is when it starts getting crazy, because then you have all three of our football teams, freshman, junior varsity, and varsity, as well as our three volleyball teams. And it's set up for
3 volleyball. So they have freshman, JV, and varsity also.
Correct.
Wow.
So we've got about 40 girls. So all said and done, fourth block, you talk about probably around 140 kids.
Yeah.
In fourth block. But what it allows us to do is fourth block, if they aren't in training, they can start practice.
Yeah.
To where our kids here at Saraland, because we went to a block schedule, and with the way that we have everything set up, especially now with the state changing things to where you can start doing some sport practice during school. Yeah. If you're on our campus after 4:30, something's wrong.
Yeah. That is awesome, man. Woo. That makes mom and daddy's happy right there, man. Because, and homework is a lot easier too, because I've seen my boys stay up until, one night I got up, this one long ago, I got up, went to go get me something to drink, and I look up the steps and the lights are on in Brady's room. And I was like, man, he can't be up there playing games. So I go to the top of the steps, open the door, and he's sitting in the middle of his bed with his headphones on, rocking, just like jamming, looking at his iPad. So I go over there and look, and he jumps like, I was like, what are you doing? He goes, Dad, I got physics. And I was like, holy mackerel. I look, it's 1:33 a.m. and he's banging away. And there's no telling what he's listening to, but he was rocking and doing physics homework at 1:30 in the morning. I was like, come on, man, we got to get in bed. So they get home. They're getting home at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's amazing.
Yeah. One of the biggest problems that we have as far as athletics is that our practices will get over so soon that we'll have kids having to stay around and wait on their parents or wait for a ride because they're finished with football practice. Like for freshman football, we were done with practice every day by 3:30.
Oh, wow.
And we would lift them most days to where they'd come down at, because fourth block starts at 1:03. And with our facilities right now, the way we have it is that, varsity football comes down there. They have offense and defense. They will walk through, have a 30-minute walkthrough, go practice, come back, finish practice at around 3 o'clock. And then Mondays and Wednesdays after that, they'll come into the weight room, they'll train, and then they're done. But our football players, our varsity football players, they're done with practice and weight training by about 4:15.
Wow. So what you're doing in that fourth block, you got people, so you've got volleyball here, you've got freshman football players here, varsity football players, and they're just moving around. So they're not all 140 in the gym at the same time. Can you hear
Correct.
Me? Yeah.
Correct. And it allows us to kind of scatter people out to where it's like, okay, varsity football, they train on Mondays and Wednesdays after they get finished with practice. And then, freshman football, they can lift every day.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. See, that is unbelievable. That's that early development that they're getting that pays huge dividends when they're older.
Yes.
So you've obviously got some help in the weight room during the day with your sport coaches are there any full-time assistant strength coaches, or you utilize the sport? Are there any assistant strength and conditioning coaches, or do you rely upon the sport coaches to assist you in the weight room?
I rely on our sport coaches.
Yeah.
But with having our head baseball coach as well as our head softball coach, to where they're with me all day, to where they are assigned to the weight room. So they're with me all day, and they're able to
kind of like assistants.
Yeah, they're essentially an assistant for me, but they're not a strength conditioning coach. And that's not their main position, but they do a phenomenal job for us.
Yeah. Does everyone there do a similar off-season program? I mean, how do you divide it up? I mean, are they all doing the same thing? Well, let me back up. Let me say this, though. One thing that is I really like seeing is having co-ed training where the football coach's ego isn't so big that he doesn't want women around his men. And because I think that's what builds like school spirit. And, it builds a sense of team that goes beyond football, baseball, and basketball. It develops school pride in the school, pride in the Spartans. And so I like that. But the question is, are they all doing something similar that is specific to development, but not real sports specific? How do you break that up?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and that's what I love about that. And then, I'll be honest. I mean, I've got some girls that have been consistently in the weight room. Yeah, I've got some girls that are pretty strong, and sometimes some of these high school boys will get in there and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I can lift that." I'm like, "Hold on a second, son.
You better watch out.
You better watch out." I was like, "Don't mess with her."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Why?" I was like, "Because I know she's stronger than you. And from her mentality, when I see her lift, I was like, I know she's meaner than you too. So
that's awesome.
You better not mess around." But I mean, I love it. And I mean, I've had some of my female athletes, I've had a couple of guys at different times kind of pop off to some of my female athletes. And I've had some of them turn around and be like, "Listen,
yeah,
you need to shut up." And that's myself having a daughter. That's what I want from those female athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going I want that confidence, and I want that. I want them to be able to work and teach them how to do that, because they start understanding that. I mean, then it's just huge for them. And they, I mean, I had one girl, and she's had weight training twice a year since her freshman year. She came in and she was tall and skinny and everything. And, she's like, "Coach," she's a senior now. She's like, "Coach Hersel, from my freshman year until now, I've put on 35 pounds. And I was like, "Well, how do you feel about yourself?" She goes, "I feel great." She goes, "I look great. I feel great." And just her confidence and what that does for those young women, especially like with being around the guys and seeing that. And, and they feed off each other. So, I mean, I think that's really good. But all of our athletes do something very similar. And then the more advanced they are for as far as, coming in, because our football guys are probably our most advanced team, our varsity guys, to where I'll start doing some different stuff with them. And then it kind of depends on the team and the experience from year to year, because right now, I mean, our football guys, they do a lot of the same stuff as our basic program, and I changed some different things up, but to where everything's pretty similar, but it's not the same cookie cutter program that everybody's on. It's kind of, I base it off of what they need at that time. And I'm fortunate enough to where we have the technology to be able to implement that for what we do.
Yeah. So when you say technology, do y'all use Team Builder or Coach Me Plus or something like that?
We don't. We're not there yet. I was able to, from a buddy of mine, his name is Cody Hughes. He developed a spreadsheet through Google.
I've seen that. Yeah.
And Cody had to kind of special design mine based off the amount of racks we had and everything like that in my workstations. And what I did is I downloaded it and saved it as an Excel document. And then through our school, we have the Microsoft Office suite and everything. And I saved it to my OneDrive, and then I shared it to all of our iPads. Yeah. So I'm able to go in there and enter in all my athletes' stuff and then assign them to a certain program. So they come over, they grab their tablet. So I've got 28 iPads, I think. And so they'll come over there, they'll grab their iPad, they'll pull it up, they can select their team, they can select the program that they're supposed to be on, and that's what they have.
Now, have you ever thought about mounting the iPads to the racks, or you like it better because they can carry it to the med ball area, or they can carry it around?
I've thought about being able to do it to the racks, but that's something I just haven't been able to get there yet.
Yeah. You take what you have and then you make it work, and y'all have done a phenomenal job there to be able to have those iPads for those students. And you've developed a system by using Cody's spreadsheet to be able to program for multiple sports without chaos. And there's always going to be a little bit of chaos, but that is the secret. The only difference, what we want to do with the Moffitt method is we want to do the programming. We want to take that out because not everybody has a John Hersel. And so what we want to do is to take the programming off the coach's hands and then have a remote coach that trains the high school strength and conditioning coaches to implement our program. Yep. And that way, there's not someone there at the school that has to worry about a year-round training program for all these different sports and how to organize it. And so it's super cool to be able to see you doing that there at Saraland. And because that's the essence of our business here. That's all that we want to do. So my next question I was going to ask you is, what are your core exercises? Like, what's a day look like there, a training day? If you could give me a breakdown of just what a training day looks like at Saraland.
So the way our weight room is set up is that, it's long and kind of narrow. And so I actually have 40 workstations in the weight room.
Oh, wow.
Because I've got 10 sets of racks. I have a full rack connected to a half rack, and that's up against the exterior wall. And so that gives me, 20 workstations right there because I've got 10 of those. Well, then in front of those, as you go right to the wall where we have our covered turf, I have platform areas to where there's 2 platforms that are separated by a weight storage unit. And that's where I keep all of my medicine balls as well as all of our fat bells there. And so that gives me another 20 stations. So I kind of do, I run essentially a version of almost like Joe Ken's tier system, just because the way that our weight room is set up and, and the amount of athletes that we have coming through there and just how we do everything. And I've found that because that is what is fit what I do at Saraland best.
Yeah, you have to do what,
Because when I was at Baldwin County, I did something different. When I was doing stuff at Spanish Fort, back when that school opened up, I was doing something different in South Alabama. Everything's been different, but you just have to adjust to the facility that you have, because before we got down to the performance center, before we were down there, what I did up here in the school when because our weight room was originally we had 2 classrooms that were weight rooms. Yeah. And it was like 6 inches in between bars. You couldn't really drop any bars because if you did, you might end up hitting somebody. Yeah. I mean, it was just like, mass chaos. And I was just like, oh God, don't let anybody get hurt.
But you made it work though.
Yeah. I mean, you made it work and that's what you did. But, so we do a lot of, Monday, let's see here. Monday is more of our, let's see here. What do we do? Okay, I'm sitting here thinking. I'm trying to think of the days right here. Okay, so Monday is more of our total body day. It's where I'll do an RDL, do a heavy RDL, but like back on station 1, they'll do a front rack split squats. And our kids are always like, Coach, why do we have to do front rack split squats? I'm like, well, we're going to do cleans. And if you can't front squat or you can't do a front rack split squat, you can't get that bar on your shoulders. I was like, you're not going to be able to clean. Well, I can clean. I'm like, no, you can't. If you can't get the bar on your shoulders, you can't do cleans. Mm-hmm. So they'll do that. Then they'll do an upper body exercise on station 2. Station 3, they'll do, some more, kind of auxiliary type exercise right there. And then, station 4 is when we do our, that's when we do our RDL, our primarily, total body movement for that day. Then Wednesdays is when we do a lot of our squats. They'll either do a front squat, back squat, or because I've got safety bars. Every rack has a safety bar, so we'll do a Hatfield squat or say a Hatfield split squat or backward lunge. And then on Fridays, that's when we do a lot of our cleans. Do a lot of our cleans as well as our bench press. And one of the things that I've learned with high school kids is that, especially with where we're at in South Alabama, even where you're at, over there in Baton Rouge, Fridays, there are a lot of kids and a lot of parents that, they'll be going to the beach.
Yeah, they check
out early. And the one thing that high school boys never want to miss, they never want to miss bench press day.
Yeah.
So put bench press on Friday, because if you put heavy squats on Friday, they ain't showing up on Friday. You're not seeing them after the bell rings on Thursday. Put bench press on Friday, and they'll be there. And that's the way it is. But that's that's a system that I found that works really well for us and for our situation right now.
Yeah. Yeah. The Southern lifestyle, and that's what I'm going to call it, the Southern lifestyle. With the weather the way it is here, Fridays were always a challenge as long as we were in the off season, and when I was a high school coach or a college coach, if there's not a game or something there to do on the weekend, those guys are going to the beach, they're going to the fishing camp, they're going to the hunting camp, they're going duck hunting, or they're going to New Orleans, to the city for something. So that's what they call New Orleans, the city, So there was, the Southern lifestyle, the weekends are for play, man. And, Louisiana's called the sportsman's paradise, and that South Alabama's no different, man. There's so much to do there on the weekend. So you program your bench press on Friday. So sun's out, guns out.
Yes. Everybody wants to get that pump before they go to the beach.
Yeah. Or if you're holding up some big red snappers or a big amberjack, you want to make sure that your arms look good in that picture. Or if you're holding up a stringer full of ducks. Yeah.
Yep. That's
good old Southern lifestyle.
Yep. And that's the way we have, with a lot of our kids. It's like, okay, hunting season's getting ready to start over here. And, we got some kids that are starting to get twitchy, and they'll go hunting in the morning and then come to school.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah. Boy, do I have some stories for that. Yeah. Well, so I'll give you a neat story. So my oldest son, Clay, out of high school, he signed at a junior college to play baseball. LSU, because he had his only SEC offer out of high school was at Missouri. So we took a trip to Missouri, and it was just too far from home. And the LSU baseball staff said, if you go to LSU E and you do a good job there, we'll recruit you and sign you here. So Clay, and LSU E the E stands for Eunice, Louisiana, and it's out west where they have all the rice fields and stuff. So Clay had some teammates there that were from Catholic High that he was going to school with. And they told him, says, look now, Clay told me this. It was funny. He goes, Dad, I'm pre-registering for classes. And Romero said that I shouldn't sign up for a class before 9 a.m. in the morning, but I want to get my classes done early so I got time to go work out and I can eat and then go to practice. And I said, well, all right, we'll do it. And he goes, well, he told me if I have a class before 9, I won't ever go because of duck hunting. And I was like, what? And he goes, oh, yeah, everybody goes hunting in the morning before school. And so, even the coaches say, if you're going to go hunting, do not register for a class before 9 a.m. because you're going to miss it. And if you miss it, you got punishment running,
Yep.
So that's the way it was. So Clay, the whole time he was at Eunice, he never had a class before 9 a.m. because they were going to go hunting or do something, in the mornings before class all the time. And there we go again. So, so you're big into, let's get back to training here. Sorry for the digressing there. But I'm big. That's why I never left here, man, because I dig the Southern lifestyle, man. But anyway, so you talked about single leg movements. So, so the unilateral work is important for y'all, and you do a lot of different variations. What are some of the other things that you do? Some of those single leg variations. What are some of those?
Well, so we'll do our Hatfield split squats, Hatfield backward lunges. We'll do a bar on the back with the straight bar. I've got landmine attachments on all of my weight storage units. So I'll have them, lean into that bar and get a lateral squat, and then I'll have them go to a lateral lunge. I've even had them do a split squat where they're leaning into that bar and doing a split squat there. And then I have them do a backward lunge where they're leaning into that laterally. Yeah. So you can work on, and what I've found, and I don't have the data to prove it, but I know what I see with my kids is that when I've started having my kids be able to train and be able to get their body into this position, all of a sudden going into and out of cuts, our guys are exploding out of them because they can get into that position. They feel it to where I'll have them lean into that weight, lean into that bar, and they'll step back with their outside foot, or they'll step back with their inside foot at first. That way it's a traditional cut off that inside edge. And then as they get more comfortable with it, I'll cycle it in to where they're stepping back with that outside foot. And then, then they're on the inside edge they're on the outside edge of that foot that's closest, to the weight storage unit. And I mean, I do a lot of stuff like that. We'll do lunges, step ups, lateral lunges. We'll do lateral step ups with all of our kids, because I want them to be a total athlete and be able to move and adjust. And kids are like, well, coach, why are we doing this? I was like, well, at some point in time in your sport, we don't know when, we don't know how and why, but you'll be put into this position.
A compromising position.
Yeah. And when you get into this compromising position, okay, certain things can happen, and most of them are negative. You can get hurt, fall out of position, do whatever. I was like, I don't want that to happen. I want you to be able to get into that position and get out of it and be healthy and, be able to make a play or whatever. One of the teachers here, her daughter is a competitive cheerleader. She does, all the national cheer competitions and everything. And, and one of the girls at their national competition, fell off balance, and she had to actually drop into a lateral lunge, holding the girl over her head and stand up. And her mom came back and told me, she goes, you know what, after that thing, she ran up to me and she goes, you know what, Coach Hersel was right. He said at some point in time I was going to be in that position. And I was like,
hey, how about that?
I never expected a cheerleader to say that to me, but, I just want them to be able to move and, be able to move and be able to be mobile and flexible and just be able to, do that stuff. So I want to, so I'm building a total athlete.
Right. Yeah. Versus doing bilateral squats all the time, Yes. So it's important. And so that leaning back and lunge that you were talking about, we did that a lot with our edge rushers, our outside linebackers. That was something that we did a lot of, for a position specific exercise, because those guys have to, lean and, they're ripping and leaning at such an extreme angle to get around that tackle to get to the quarterback, so we did a lot of that. They didn't like them early on. Now, you said RDLs, which are critical, for your butt, back, and hamstrings. Any other secrets or any other stuff that you do for the, do you do Nordic exercises or any slide board leg curls? What else are you doing for the posterior chain that you like?
We'll do, we'll do deadlifts, to where once they get good enough at being able to do an RDL, we'll do a traditional deadlift at the bar. And we also have hex bars. So, we'll do a hex bar RDL. We'll do a hex bar deadlift. We'll do some, single leg RDLs, with our fat bells and even with our landmines as well. So, we do a lot of that. I haven't done a whole lot of the Nordic stuff with my kids just because with the way that everything's set up, just trying to get that in there, I just haven't been able to do it. But I mean, they're good exercises, but that's one of those things where that is definitely something that is extremely tough.
Yeah.
Tough for a lot of people to do.
Yeah.
So it's it's good.
What are some of the things that you do in the running program that prepares your teams for competition? I know the stuff that you do before the workout, the running, jumping, the sprinting, jumping, and throwing is huge. But when you start breaking it down by sports, is there a lot of specificity with movement prep for the different teams, or is it primarily energy system development? Because your guys practice, your teams are obviously practicing a lot. So how does your running program look compared to the lifting program?
For the most part, because we have so much exposure to our coaches have so much exposure to the athletes, is that unless somebody asks me to do some, specific conditioning with their kids, pretty much the sport coaches handle that. I mean, if they ask me, I'll give them some input and different things. But like during the summertime, we don't do any conditioning with our guys, with our football guys, because, we have a full blown practice to where we have a script, offensive and defensive script. Well, if they're out practicing football and they're out there for an hour, hour and 15 minutes or however long they're out there, and it's 95 degrees and 90% humidity, I don't need to do any more conditioning with them. Right. And so, I'll do a lot of like real general stuff, but I'll do a lot of, I started talking to, Tony Villani at XPE Sports and on some of his game speed stuff. And it really tied in well with a lot of the stuff that I did when I was at IMG Sport Academies with Mark Verstegen, as well as like with a lot of Lauren's stuff for her as, for his speed work. And I guess kind of what they do at what's the name of Mark's company now? Because I know we changed it. Yeah, Exos, to where it's a lot of the same stuff they do at Exos, and it fits in really well to where I'll do a lot of like starting, stopping, even some of like Paul Jackson stuff. Yeah, that Paul did. 'Cause Paul got to LSU after I did, but I still follow him, and and he does a lot of really, really great stuff for as far as his movement mechanics and how he trains a lot of his speed work. Him, Joey G down at FAU, excuse me. He does a really good job with a lot of his multi-directional work. And that's kind of what I pound with our kids is, the acceleration and deceleration work with them, just so they can get into that position. Because, and I have this talk every year with soccer people is that, well, I'm a forward in soccer, so I run 6 miles, so I need to go out and run miles. I'm like, yes, but the 6 miles you run in the game, if you average your speed out, is probably about 4 miles an hour. That's essentially a speed walk. So don't go out and jog 6 miles, speed walk 6 miles, and it's the same thing. I was like, or if you do it,
well, there's a lot of merit to that too, because that would be zone 2 training, which is true aerobic conditioning. And so one of the things I told one of our soccer coaches to do, and he did it, and and the girls were in great shape, didn't have a whole lot of like overtraining injuries. I was like, okay, have them, if you want to have them run a mile, do it 40 yards at a time. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, have them start at, say, the goal line. Start out at a jog to the 10. When they hit the 10, have them sprint as hard as they can from the 10 to the 30. Then, just jog through the 40 and have them do it 40 yards at a time.
give them a minute rest or however long rest you want to give them. And then, do the same thing and, run a mile 40 yards at a time in that sprint, because I was like, that's more specific to what those girls are going to do on the soccer field, to where it's jog, sprint, jog. Yeah. And that's one of the things that is trying to get coaches to understand how that's going to help them. But, even the athletes themselves, to where, they're not just going out and just putting in mindless miles and just beating their body down. But, I'll focus on a lot of the, acceleration, a lot of the landing stuff. We do a lot of hex bar jumps, and that's one of the things that, for as far as our landing, our athletes being able to land and stabilize under a load, with the cleans, where you have to stabilize with that external load, as well as with the hex bars, and be able to do a lot of that stuff. I think that our athletes have been able to stay, for the most part, almost completely healthy, with the exception of a freak injury now and then.
And you can't prevent all of that.
Yeah. I mean,
stuff happens.
Yes, it does. And, but I mean, for the most part, I think that's helped contribute to keeping our kids healthy.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is, and this is a rhetorical question, but the men and women are basically doing the same thing, regardless of sport. Like, you don't differentiate between male and female. No, there's nothing like that. Yeah. No. That's good to hear, because a lot of people think that, because I'm a male, I'm going to do something different in the weight room than what a female would do. And that's not the case. Men and women train the same, unless there's something particular about their sport that is different than what, a male might do in another sport. But that's good to hear. And I think people need to understand that. And I think more people do today because of CrossFit. I think I had a conversation with somebody the other day in one of my podcasts about the influence of CrossFit on sport in general, because moms and grandmothers and aunts are training now and training well in the sport of CrossFit. And they don't do anything different than what the men do in CrossFit. I think CrossFit has actually been great for our profession because it mainstreamed a lot of things that we did in sport. It mainstreamed it through the boxes to parents. And now parents understand, they have a better understanding of what's going on in the strength and conditioning environment today versus a long time ago.
Correct. And for my athletes, I want them to see I want the boys to see the girls doing, hang cleaning 135, 155. I want them to see that, that 120-pound girl hang cleaning more than her body weight.
Yeah.
Because
it's motivating to the male. Yeah.
Yes. Like our girls, I'll let our girls roll their sleeves up. I don't allow any cut off sleeve shirts in our weight room.
Yeah.
But when the girls, when they start to roll their sleeves up and they start
they're feeling it.
Yeah. And I want to celebrate that, because I don't want them to feel like they're doing something different because they're a girl, because a lot of female athletes, from what I've, gathered over my time as coaching, is that a lot of female athletes are easier to coach to some extent.
Yeah. Oh, no, they are.
Because the girls, they want to know how. They want to have that buy-in. They want to. They want that.
You are exactly right.
Whereas a lot of the guys are like, okay, you're here for me. Well, yes, I am. But it's like the guys expect it, where the girls are kind of like,
they appreciate it more.
Yes, they appreciate it a lot more. So
it was fun, and it was fun watching our beach volleyball team train, our volleyball team train, the soccer team train, gymnastics. Coach Earl Chevalier trained our gymnastics team for 15 years at LSU, and to be able to see those young women train and be committed and fearless with the barbell in their hand was good, not just for them, but it was good, like you said, for the men to come in there and see those women training as hard as they did. And I told somebody before this, and you alluded to it, if it was never a distraction for us at LSU, because our football, when football would be lifted, there's no telling what female sport would be in their training, because we had 10,000 or 12,000 square feet of space.
Yep.
But our football players didn't say anything to those women, because one of them may haul off and smack his eyeballs out of his head, because they were more as serious or more serious about their sport than what that guy was, because he's worried about what she's doing. And that was never an issue for us at LSU, because they were, in the Southeastern Conference, it doesn't matter if it's golf, tennis, or football. They're just as serious about their sport. There is just as much on the line for a women's sport than there is a men's sport. And so, yeah, they didn't train any differently.
Yep.
Well, unfortunately, our time is up, John. At some point we got to cut it off.
Yes.
But man, this was awesome. You believe it or not, you were one of the first names that I put on the list for podcast because I want to, I'm starting with all the OGs first, and moving my way up. And so I'm super proud of you, one, because you're an OG, and two, you've carved out a great career, and you alluded to, getting your certification and how that ensures job security, and that you'll always be able to move when you have to. Be like water. That's a great quote. So I appreciate you being on here. I really do.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. It was great catching up with you.
Yeah. So our listeners, you can follow John on Twitter at John Hersel, and that's JONHERSEL. And then on Instagram, you can follow them at Saraland _strength. And it's SARALAND _strength.
Yep.
Coach, thanks again for being on here. Have a great week. Finish strong this football season. And I know you're fired up about wrestling. I know I'm fired up about wrestling season and basketball season just right around the corner. So, again, thanks for coming on and being a part of our podcast. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me, and good luck with the little man.
Yeah,
little man, and his and him finishing strong this year for football. And it was great talking to you, Coach.
Thank you, buddy. Take care.
Yeah, you too.
Today's Ask Coach question comes from Jacob. Jacob asks, what are the 3 main characteristics of a successful strength and conditioning coach? So, great question, man. And now this answer is going to be my opinion. I promise you, I didn't go on Google and search, what the best answer for this would be. So this is based on my feelings and my beliefs. I think the single most important characteristic of any coach, teacher, supervisor is being a good communicator. There's a lot that goes into being a strength coach. There's running, there's lifting, there's tactical preparation, there's mental preparation. But number one, you've got to get everyone to listen and do what they have to do in order to get better. Coach Saban said that coaching is teaching, and teaching is motivating people to learn. And if those people aren't dialed in and focused on your message, then the communication is ineffective. So before all else, the coach has got to be able to get those people to be dialed in, to respond to you. First of all, they got to hear your message. They've got to hear the content of the conversation, and then you've got to say it in a manner that they can understand and assimilate. And you got to make sure that you're captivating that team or that group of people. So I think it's really, really, really important to be a dynamic communicator and get everybody to listen So my dad used to say this: listen, pay attention, and learn. And in order to do that, you got to be able to communicate that message effectively. Second, and I think it goes without saying, you got to know the subject matter. I mean, that's fundamental. And it doesn't matter if you're a strength coach or a football coach. You got to know the material that you're trying to teach. You don't have to have a master's degree in exercise science or kinesiology, but you got to know enough to develop the systems, and I'm going to call it that, but you got to know enough to develop the systems required to keep your team healthy and so that they can compete on a high level. And there's a lot that goes on there, without getting too in depth. You got to know your material. And then all of this has to be age and experience appropriate. In fact, that's, Coach Hersel alluded to that it has to be age appropriate, and that like for us at LSU, our incoming freshmen could not compete with our 3 and 4 and 5 year seniors in the weight room. There was every once in a while a guy got like Leonard Fournette would come along that could compete with them to some degree, but when you start boiling down the technique and everything that was required, it was tough. So in addition, I think it helps to understand the needs of the particular sport. All right. You got to know that. And then how to go about programming for those sports, experience, time on the floor, continuing education, experimenting with different players, trying to solve problems that you see in different sports and different type of athletes. And then thinking outside the box helps in this area also. But then overall, I think you have to really do the basics well. And that's why I said you don't have to have a master's degree in exercise science, but you got to know fundamentally all the material to develop the different systems to be a good coach. And then lastly, I think, and this characteristic has to do with a person's personal development. But lastly, I think a coach, a very important characteristic is that coach has balance in their life. And when I say balance, I don't mean there has to be a work to family life ratio of 1-to-1. If I work 8 hours, I get to play for 8 hours. That's not the type of balance that I'm talking about. I mean, holistically, a coach has to have balance, and most importantly, your expectations of yourself and the expectations of your team and how you manage that throughout your career is critical. When my expectations of myself are too high, or when my expectations of my team are so high that it affects me negatively in a negative manner and causes me to say and do things that aren't conducive for our team and my success and mental health, et cetera, then we're going to run into issues. And I know a lot of coaches, staff members, and administrators that haven't taken very good care of themselves mentally or physically because of their work or the demands that they place on themselves about their work. And so I think it is important to take time for your family, to pray, to meditate, to work out, to go to the doctor, man. You would not believe the number of coaches that I know that just don't go to the doctor on a regular basis. And then taking time off to recharge your batteries goes a long way to help your attitude, your energy, and your success as a leader. So, and I think that's important. Will there always be a 1-to-1 ratio, work to rest ratio? No, it's not going to be like that, man. you can work 10 or 12 hours as long as you have that balance, that holistic balance. You can work 10 or 12 hours a day because of, your mental health, and your physical health is there, and you have the energy to be able to do that on a continual basis. And then you take time off again at the end to recharge those batteries. When I was physically, mentally, and emotionally tired, I was never a very good coach. And so I forced myself to take good care of myself, and everyone has to do that. So to review, I would say be a great communicator, know your subject matter and know it well, and then have balance in your life, holistic balance, and take good care of yourself, and lead by example, because trust me, the athletes are watching. This brings us to the end of today's podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you are someone interested in doing our podcast, or if you know someone that you would like to recommend as a guest to our podcast, please email us at podcast@themoffittmethod.fit. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. John is a tremendous coach, and I knew he would do a great job. So please subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review. That's important. For more information about the Moffitt Method program and everything that we have to offer, please visit our website at themoffittmethod.fit on the internet, and then at the Moffitt Method on Instagram, and Moffitt Method on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you for joining in with us today, and have a great